残酷な天使の
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Adcast. It's an ill-defined podcast for the study of modern visual culture. It's Chaboy Soup.
And you ran you. Girl.
Listen, I wrote this whole bit for you
No,
about
I don't
the
like it.
Kira idol.
I'm not an
and
idol.
You refuse to take the mantle.
I'm not taking
Really,
it.
you're running away from your destiny.
I'll continue to run because that's not my destiny, man. You can't force that on me.
Whatever. One day. Well, this week ad stands for Accelerate Turbo because we're going to be talking about Redline. And before we get into what that is, what have you been up to? What's your week been like? What's your last 2 weeks been like, rather?
Bruh. Okay, so I went to Animazement, and that was dope. It was in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I had an artist alley table there, and all my friendsies were there, and they helped me out, and things took basically a quarter of the time to set up and take down. It was awesome because I'm used to just doing all that stuff by myself, so that was fun. And got to see lots of cool cosplays. And I texted you one of them, which was the Fire Emblem Heroes one.
It's pretty beautiful.
They dressed up as the spring Easter versions of Chrom and Lucina and Camilla, and that was cute. I saw a really good Mononoke cosplay. Like the anime Mononoke, not Princess Mononoke.
Mm-hmm.
Though there was, of course, her too.
And, oh yeah, that one too, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, she was cool too, but I don't get to see Mononoke cosplays super often. And this guy had the medicine cabinet and everything. He was perfect.
Oh my goodness,
he did a whole
good.
little pose in front of my booth with another friend of mine, and they looked great. It looked like they were paying homage to my table, so that was awesome. And then this past weekend, I had some friends visit from St. Louis, and they were super cool. And we freaking binged Welcome to the NHK, all of it.
Oh my god! You've seen Welcome to the NHK? Wait, have you seen it before?
I have.
Now you have.
Now I have.
Yeah, my question was if you had seen it before.
No,
then.
I hadn't.
Okay. Wow. Oof. Oof. That's. Welcome to the NHK is a lot.
It is a lot.
It is a lot to handle, but it is something that solidly falls in the category of I really enjoy this, but I have to be in the right mood to enjoy this.
Yeah, I loved it. It did feel kind of slow at parts, but I think the way that they organized the story into little arcs, I guess, and then in the end they had that big old finale that was really this is basically how real life goes. I mean, there's some drama here and there with this main couple, but the way that people kind of diverge off into their own paths was really awesome to see, because I was like, man, not a lot of anime do this. You kind of expect them, because it's been so happy-go-lucky up till that point, to have a fairy tale-esque ending. But then it kind of reconciles with how reality is and I love that.
Yeah, I've never seen the anime. I've only ever read the manga, which is why I continually forget that I've experienced Welcome to the NHK until someone else brings it up.
Mm-hmm.
I hear that they have slightly different endings.
Oh, really?
But the ending of the manga too is this kind of very down-to-earth, bittersweet, open-ended ending.
Okay.
Which I appreciate, because it represents a genre of fiction that I really enjoy. But one that I cannot get in the mood for all the time. Oh no,
yeah, that was definitely something. I haven't watched something in that, I guess, genre in a long time, and this was I guess a good time for me to jump into it. And
real heavy.
Watch the whole thing.
Real heavy.
Yeah, it's super heavy. And then now we watched Redline. and that's definitely not in the same genre.
So you also made them watch Redline.
Oh no! I mean I guess
just you.
a break from that, watching Redline was good.
Yeah, Redline is a great show to watch as like a break because it breaks everything.
It does. Everything.
Just all the time.
And it's good.
Well, that's neat.
Mm-hmm. What you been up to, buddy?
Really not a whole lot. I'm just kind of hanging on in there until the end of the quarter.
Mm-hmm.
It is currently Dead Week, Tuesday of Dead Week.
Okay.
All I have to do is finish a book and then like get through my final project. And then once I'm done with that, I can just take my test on Monday and I'm free.
Oh.
So what that means is I will take my test on Monday and then I will go home and scramble to work on my 2 finals.
Oh.
That's not true. I intend to at least work on them before that.
Uh-huh.
Mostly because it's exciting. I get to write, or I guess I don't get to, but I'm going to, regardless of if they let me or not. Although I've been explicitly allowed to do something that's not a book. So, well, that's the general way that the project works. But it's essentially just I get to write an essay about a piece of speculative fiction. So, of course, I'm going to write about 2017 video game Yoko Taro's Wild Ride, also called Nier Automata.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I'm going to write one of my final essays on Nier Automata. and then get this, my other project is I'm going to make a video essay for my Kafka class, and I'm going to make it about postmodernism in Japan, in Japanese popular culture, and the way that it frames discontinuity as reflective of reality in Japan. And the long and short of that is I'm going to talk about anime.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say. Like, so basically you're going to talk about everything we covered in our podcast episodes.
Right. It was really tempting just to cut little bits from the podcast. But to be honest, the audio quality is so terrible that I have to tune it up anyway.
Yeah.
And at that point, I might as well just record something new. But yes, I'm going to talk about Eva. I'm going to talk about Furikuri.
Yeah.
Which I only thought about recently because they just released, I think, the first episode of the second season.
Did they?
Like the 2nd of June, I think.
Oh.
So we'll have to check that out, see if it's any good, see if it was worth revisiting Furikuri. The answer is probably not, but maybe it will surprise us, you know?
I have a feeling it'll be good because there's so much love behind the series, and it's
that's
so
what I think, right?
Like, I don't know.
I don't want to be the kind of person who sees a piece of media that I like be, revisited, and then my opinion of it is colored by the fact that I experienced it at a certain time in my life, right? I do not want to become the kind of old person that sees that and goes, I don't connect to that, I hate that, it's dumb, you've ruined my favorite thing. When in reality, my experience that I had with the original thing is not tarnished by the fact that the new thing exists. It just means that my satisfaction at the potential of this new thing being also good was, squandered. And that's okay, I think.
Sure. I mean, as long as you are able to keep that perspective of, the original thing still touched your kokoro, and this new thing may or may not do the same. It will probably, if it does, it will do so in a different way because it's been many, many years since the original thing.
Yeah, it might do things differently, and it might touch base with, honestly, a generation that's, younger than I am, which is odd to say, but it's true because technically that wasn't a show that was made for when I was like, well, no, that's not even true, really. It does resonate with you at that age because it's about that.
Yeah.
So if it is for someone who is significantly younger than I am, and they derive some kind of meaningful experience from that, then who am I to say, no, I hate that? It's like new Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
The new Star Wars movies,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of your opinion of them,
Mm-hmm.
will not necessarily tarnish your experience of the older ones. Plus, George Lucas has come out and said some dumbass shit about Star Wars, and that doesn't ruin people's experience of the movies. So, you know.
So if that doesn't ruin it, then nothing can.
If George Lucas doesn't ruin it, then nothing can. That's a pretty good slogan, honestly.
Oh my god.
That's a pretty good slogan. Yeah. Other than that, I have been playing lots of Grand Blue Fantasy.
Yeah, buddy. Tell me about it.
Let's
spend another half hour on Grand Blue Fantasy.
Yeah, let's just this is first we started talking about Nier, and then Welcome to the NHK.
Yeah.
And then now we're going to talk about Grand Blue Fantasy. And by the time we get to Redline, we'll have to talk about it in 10 minutes, which, to be fair, I feel like fits with the thematics of the show.
Sure.
But Grand Blue Fantasy. So
yeah.
I still
you sound a little tired.
I still love this game, and I have in my luck drawing characters with the character gacha machine.
Yeah.
I've had like probably some of the better luck, because some people will draw hundreds of times and they'll get like a handful of SSRs. Meanwhile, I drew something like a total of 28 times and I got something in the ballpark of like 7 SSRs. So that is essentially a third or a fourth, actually. Yeah, a fourth of my characters are the highest tier of rarity, and most of those are good characters in and of themselves.
Oh.
So my draw luck with the character gacha has been super on point, because they have a system where if you draw 10 at once, they guarantee you at least one SR or SSR, and anytime that happens, or anytime I've done that, I've always gotten an SSR at least.
Oh, okay. Well, now you jinxed yourself.
Now I've jinxed myself, obviously, but at this point, it doesn't, you know.
You got what you wanted. I guess.
Got what I wanted.
Yeah.
I got. There was an event with a new character, or a new version of a character named Lunalu, who is basically a Harvin, which are, if you think about it in kind of fantasy, Western fantasy terms, they're like halflings, like hobbits.
Okay,
they're just
sure.
Short.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one named Lunalu who is she's a Fujoshi. She's a fantasy Fujoshi who's just like, I'm gonna make a doujin about men that love each other.
I like.
But it's beautiful, and she's great. And the event that just happened, or is happening right now, where she releases her first doujin, is honestly great, and I love it.
Doujin. I thought you were gonna say that they gave her like a horse girl anime skin or something.
No. I think the horse girl campaign is just for the opening board. They're just like, look it, we have the horse girl, and she's replaced Ryekugi Mia Dragon.
How dare they?
Yeah, it's pretty good, honestly. I really enjoy it, and I think it's pretty cute and charming.
You like the horse girl?
No, not the horse girl. I don't hate the horse girl, I guess. It's just I have mixed feelings about it, is the problem.
I have very confused feelings about it.
Right. I almost don't know what to feel.
Yeah.
Which is
me neither.
Yeah. Oh well.
That is not an anime we've been watching.
No, we have not been watching that. So As I was saying, my character draw luck is really good. Now my item drop rate is really bad.
Oh.
So what I've been okay, so there are bosses in the game, and every day you can do each boss in like each of these raids 3 times. You can host them 3 times, and then if other people are hosting, you can join them as many times as you have resources for. And they have drop rates for their items, and they drop, weapons or summons or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, to get the best, weapon deck grid, which is something that I've tried to explain vaguely last time,
Mm-hmm.
you have to get a certain weapon from each boss, because there's usually one optimal weapon to get, right?
Yeah.
Now, I never get that one. So I have been grinding every day, and I have 5 daggers total.
Uh-huh.
So think about that. There's a month about a month that I've been playing this game.
Mm-hmm.
Every day, 3 times, I beat a boss, and I get a bunch of chests, and there's a drop rate for the daggers, but there's a drop rate for the other SSR weapons in the weapon pool. So there is a staff, there's a spear, and there's a bow.
Okay.
I've gotten so many copies of the staff, the spear, and the bow, but I've gotten 5 daggers total.
Out of all the items that you've drawn.
Out of all the items that I've drawn. What that means is the skill level, which is different from the weapon level of all my daggers, is at the highest it can be right now. Skill level 10, which takes a lot of resources to get to.
Yeah.
But my weapons themselves are at such a low level, because to uncap a weapon level, you need a copy of the weapon.
Oh.
So I have 6 daggers at SL 10, skill level 10, but none of them are past level 40, because I can't get any more fucking daggers.
So you've got like these really beefy characters wielding these like level basic weapons.
I have really beefy characters that are wielding weapons that would be really strong. So I have beefy characters that are wielding weapons that give multiplicative, like, percentage bonuses, and would be really beefy if they had the raw stats to be beefy, but I cannot get them because I can't get more daggers.
I just imagine your mucho macho boys, like, the ones that they're hanging out in the bathhouse with these itty bitty daggers in their hands.
Right. It's like if the daggers are made of, like, really strong materials, but they're just like thumbtacks that you have to hold with 2 fingers. And they're not real knives. You can have a knife made out of the strongest material in the world, but if it is the size of a thumbtack, it's not going to do a whole lot. So anyway, that's how it's been. Progression has been slow because my drop rate for items is way worse than my character drop rate.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, honestly, I'll take.
If you stab something enough times, like even with a needle, it's gonna not be pleasant. So,
Well, the other problem...
It's slow and steady.
The other problem is I don't have any sustain characters. They're all attack characters. They're all characters that are like, please don't hit me, you'll reset all my bonuses. And I have no way of drawing any aggro.
So you have to end the fight quickly with these eeny-weeny thumbtacks.
Right, I have to make sure that they hit as, like, hard as possible with what limited things I have, or else I will die. I will lose a war of attrition because I don't have any kind of sustain. Which is a problem because raids are all wars of attrition.
Oh.
But it's okay. It's okay. I'll leech till the day I die.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, anyway. That's enough of Granblue Fantasy and my Granblue Fantasy woes. Let's talk about
update.
Yeah, we need the Granblue update every week. Also, I have eaten food, real fucking food.
Whoa. Food update.
Food update. I had a really great burrito.
Oh.
Yep, that's my food update. Thanks for listening.
What was in the burrito? You can't leave us hanging.
It was beef, but cooked in ranchero sauce, which is like a Mexican sauce of some descript. I could not explain to you what is in it off the top of my head, but it was tasty.
What?
Well, like, it's the same sauce that you use for, like, huevos rancheros,
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, what else was in the freaking burrito?
Oh, it's normal burrito fare: rice, beans,
Okay.
guacamole, sour cream, pico de gallo. I don't know, burrito stuff.
But you made it sound really special.
It was special in comparison to what I've been eating.
An ordinary burrito is so far superior than the cafeteria food.
Well, now, it's not an ordinary burrito. It's a solidly good burrito. Actually, I will say, to the credit of this burrito, the rice never feels like it is overpowering anything else with how much of it there is. I feel like the balance of the ingredients was really good. The texture of the beef in comparison to everything else was really good because you have the chew of the beans and the kind of tougher, more jerky-like texture of the beef. And then every time you chew it, you get the taste of the beef as well as, it's a very strong beefy flavor, as well as the ranchero sauce. And that combines to make a really satisfying bite of food.
That's a really vivid portrayal you just gave. I imagine it perfectly.
Yeah, I made myself hungry.
Yeah. I thought that's how it would end.
I do have one more thing to say about Granblue Fantasy, actually.
Okay.
Dead Week and Finals Week are wrecking havoc on my schedule, and I keep sleeping through my strike time. My first one, at least, which is sad. Anyway, actually, yesterday I slept through both of them, so... Yikes.
I'm behind.
Yeah, if I don't catch 6 p.m., I have to catch 2 a.m. Which, to be fair, I could change them, but those are the times that work best for me, so those are the times I use.
Well, I mean, this explains why sometimes I get messages from you at 4 a.m.
Yeah, it's because this morning I woke up at 4 a.m. after having gone to bed at 9 p.m. the previous night because my sleeping schedule doesn't make any sense anymore.
I'm glad you're getting sleep at least. That's important.
I am getting sleep. I accidentally slept for like 13 hours the other day. I slept through one of my classes. I slept until 7 p.m. and I was so out of sorts that I went to the dining hall and I literally dropped everything I touched.
What?
It was really bad.
All your food too?
I didn't drop any food, but I did like drop a bottle of hot sauce and it crashed and broke on the ground.
Oh,
I finished my drink and or the first time I was getting a drink, I dropped my cup and then I picked up a new cup. And as soon as I finished the drink and I got up to get a refill, I tipped it over with my hands and knocked ice everywhere. And then as I was trying to remove a chicken bone from my body, the chicken was really dry, so I essentially like accidentally took out like a pile of chicken that I'd been chewing, and it was just not a great day. That's all I'll say about it. I was so out of sorts, it was ridiculous.
I just imagine you just fumbling everything.
I was ridiculously uncoordinated. It was like I had never been in a human body before.
This must be what Rip Van Winkle felt like.
Right, he woke up and was like, oof, I got a hangover. Oh shit. What? It's been like 100 years? Oh no.
Oh
no.
I can't remember how to do anything.
Let's talk about what we're here to talk about, because I feel like we've been talking about literally everything else for 25 minutes. That's
our regularly scheduled content.
We bring you back to our regularly scheduled content. Redline is a 2009 anime movie directed by Takeshi Koike and produced by Madhouse, which, if you're not familiar with, is the studio behind One Punch Man, Cardcaptor Sakura, Death Note, Hunter x Hunter, which I will call Hunter x Hunter until the end of time.
Why? It's Hunter Hunter!
I know it's Hunter Hunter, but there's an X in it, and it just, it's bad. I'm not going to ever change how I pronounce it. It's Hunter x Hunter to me forever. Hunter x Hunter 2011 they did. And also the Tatami Galaxy, which is one of my favorite anime of all time. And if you've known me for really any amount of time, you'll know that that's one of my favorite anime of all time, because I'll tell you about it.
That'll probably be a podcast episode at some point.
Yeah. because I'll make you watch it. It'll be. I think that's a great summer watch too. So I think you should watch that for one of our summer episodes. I think that would be really good. Outside of TV, they also do films. Obviously, this one that we're talking about right now, Redline. They've done The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, Summer Wars, and they worked on, because they collaborate on a lot of movies too. They've worked on Wolf Children as well as collaborating with Studio Ghibli on such iconic hits as My Neighbor Totoro, Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle. Pick up the Blu-ray now today for only $89.99. That's not the real price.
No.
I don't actually know what the real price of these movies is. I'm sure you can get them on Amazon for like $20. Anyway, Madhouse is one of the most iconic studios with such a wide breadth of work that nearly anyone who watches anime has seen an anime that they've done. Like, even if you don't watch anime, you probably know what a Death Note is.
You've probably seen at least one sequence by Madhouse and been really impressed with it.
They are one of the most iconic studios.
They good. I like.
They've done so much work that you're bound to like something that they've done.
Exactly. It's like if you just watch anime in general, you've probably come across something that they've done.
So yeah, let's talk about Redline, because Redline is a lot.
It's bonkers.
But to start with kind of the premise, it's the future. People have grav engines and hyperdrives, and then some jackasses find some backwater planet to race cars on.
Yes, because that's what you would do in the future.
Right. It's like that, and then also it's like Megalobox, but before Megalobox.
It's for sure Megalobox. Like the whole plot of Megalobox is this, but racing. It's
right, pretty much. Except the tournament is less prestigious in the traditional sense of the word, and just more of a popular thing. It's like if NASCAR was lethal. I say as if NASCAR is not already like an incredibly dangerous sport.
Yeah, it's pretty dangerous regardless. But yeah, so the plot for Redline is it's just like we said, it's just like Megalobox, where the main character is paid to fix the races with his manager buddy / engineer but mechanic buddy, and he gets the lucky chance to get into the giant Redline tournament, which is like the most famous one on this wasteland planet, and he races there, and it's super freaking cool. Like, no synopsis will do justice how freaking cool this movie is.
Yeah, this is a movie that oozes rule of cool.
Yeah, man. Like, his freaking pompadour, man.
I will go to bat for anybody who wears that dumb haircut, and I love it.
It's like outrageous. And then there's like the robot police guy who also has a pompadour, but it's made out of metal.
I love metal pompadour guy. He's such a jerk, but it just is so good.
Yeah, man. And the freaking gold Trans Am. Oh my god. Everything in this movie is style, and I don't know.
Yeah,
I can't gush about it. Even more.
We honestly don't have like a super great synopsis of what happens, because there's not really a lot that happens. Dude gets into a race. He gets a new car. He races, and they tell him to fix the race, and he's just like, "No, I'm racing for me." And then he
he say that? I thought he was just racing.
Well, he was just racing. I mean,
yeah. I mean, he's basically just racing his heart out, and then his mechanic / manager buddy fixes the car so that when he's basically right about to cross the finish line, his car will like explode a tire or explode the engine, and then he'll lose, and then the second place person will breeze by and win, so that they make the victories close, so that by the time that the betting closes, everyone's like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna bet all my money on the main character. His name is JP, sweet JP, and they lose all their muns. And when he gets into the big race, there's a similar setup, but it turns out differently.
It is honestly really straightforward. Like, you'll not be confused by the plot of the movie, but if you don't know, because you haven't watched it, big man go race. He race good. That's it. That's the movie.
He's a kudu man.
He's kudu.
Race. Kudu. Yeah, he's kudu. You want to see a kudu guy? That's the guy.
So the plot itself is pretty simple, but it is effective because of all of the other things that it does. It's really stylish. It's really well executed. And I think it's actually it's purposeful with the way that it chooses to use kind of a simple, straightforward plot, because it then becomes about the animation. And let's talk about the animation.
Yeah.
Because this is a movie that took 7 years to develop, because it was hand animated with over 100,000 unique drawings, and that's, in this era of anime development, literally unheard of.
Yeah.
Nobody does this anymore.
No one does this because of how ridiculously budget heavy and, whatever. Like, it's just not cost effective in the least, but dang, does it look freaking amazing. Like, you look at it, and while I was watching it, I forgot that it was hand animated until afterwards. I recalled, and I was like, wait, this whole freaking thing was hand animated, all that perspective. Like, every single shot has like some wonky perspective going on, but not like wonky as in like bad, like wonky as in like, you don't see people draw like that nowadays unless it's like, one or two shots. This was like basically every scene they would have some kind of like unique way that they compose the shot. And so then that, you just imagine them doing all the smooth animation, all the details, and all of the freaking ridiculous, crazy designs that they have for every single character, like even all the background characters. Oh my god!
Yeah, the character design is really great.
It's so good.
Has all those weird aliens.
Yeah, because they have all sorts of different species, and so like they have different looks for each different species, and then of course I don't know, the world building in this anime, even though they don't explain a whole lot of it, you feel sunken into it because you're like, oh my gosh, I want to learn more. But there's not much I can learn more aside from what I can see in the movie. But it's a really, really cool glimpse into a world that you feel like could exist. Yeah,
I think they do a really good job of setting up the slice of the setting that you see that implies that there's more beyond it. It feels like a part of a larger world, and there's a lot of really subtle work that is done to do that. Mm-hmm. If you like the pod racing sequence in Star Wars, this is like a movie that's exactly this. It's like that, but that's the movie. It's pretty dope. So, aside from the fact that it's basically like the last great hand animated piece of long feature-length animation, rather. It is so over the top in every other aspect. The perspectives that they use, the way that they squash and stretch the drawings to ludicrous degrees, all of it is really, really well done.
Yep. They don't skimp.
They do not skimp, and they understand how to use stylization in a way to convey aesthetics, but also feelings and motion. This is a movie where, in watching it, you can feel the animation and you can feel the speed of the cars. I guess they're called. I guess they're cars. Yeah, you can feel the speed of the cars, which, frankly speaking, is way more difficult than people give credit for.
Yeah.
I think it stands out because, we're in an era where a lot of animation relies very heavily on telling, right? It relies a lot on characters and their interactions, and in kind of a, like, obviously I don't mean to talk down to newer animation, but sometimes along the way we tend to lose these really dynamic sort of shows in favor of things that are more cost effective, like 3 people talking around a table.
Yeah.
So that's honestly really cool that we get to see this. And I mean, 2009 at this point is almost 10 years ago. But still, it still stands as one of the last great hand-animated films.
You wouldn't be able to tell, honestly. Like, if you watch this movie alongside, like, a more recent, I guess, digitally animated piece of work, like, I think it holds up on its own, you know? Like,
I think so, too. I think normally the difference between hand-animated films and digital films tends to be one of texture.
Yeah.
But I think for Redline, it tends to be more in favor of fluidity. It's just that there are more... there's more visual motion for you to see.
Yeah.
And an interesting thing is that it emulates the style of animation that is more in line with the digital age than with the older age. This is the mixing of the old and the new. If someone told you that this was a digitally animated film, you would believe them.
Yeah.
You would think, oh, that's a really cool one. But it's hand animated. It's drawn.
Yeah, you would never... I feel like when you watch it, you don't assume that it's hand animated because of how clean the animation is. Like, their use of silhouetting is so good because they shade everything with black, right?
Yeah,
so
really
if you're
hard, bold black lines.
Yeah, really hard, bold black, and then really, bold colors. Like, you would think that that kind of might get exhausting to look at after a while, but like, they do it masterfully, and so then you know for a fact that these people know what they're doing.
Yeah, it's very evocative of a lot of like late 90s. I mean, actually, I'm gonna explicitly say early 2000s. I think for this case, it's very evocative of early 2000s anime. Which, to be fair, I guess 2009 can be considered at the sort of cusp end of early 2000s. But it reminds me of shows like Samurai Champloo and shows that have those really, really stylized kind of lines. And the line work is really stellar.
Yeah.
It is also very reminiscent of Western graphic novels or comic books.
Yes.
It, I think, derives a lot of influence from that to great effect.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just so fantastic. Like, I can't wax poetic enough about just how good this movie is to watch with your eyes.
With your eyeballs.
With your actual human eyeballs. It is. This is honestly a movie where I would go as far as to say the best way to watch it is to just find a Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And, I mean, if you don't have a Blu-ray player, obviously the internet exists, but that's all I can say legally on a podcast, probably.
What we're trying to say is watch it.
Honestly, even streaming doesn't necessarily do it the justice that it deserves.
Yeah.
Because the animation is so fluid, so high-paced, and so fast that it's hard to get across with the kind of loss that you get in streaming that you don't necessarily see with any other anime these days.
I would love to see like a making of kind of like documentary-ish type of thing with this film because
I would love to watch this in a movie theater.
Yeah.
I think that would be
my god, yeah.
I think that would be the most stellar experience.
Oh my god. We need to do that. Just get a movie theater soup.
Yeah, listen, we'll get the podcast successful enough where we're making millions of dollars. And using our millions of anime dollars, we're going to buy a movie theater and only play anime movies.
I can imagine getting lots of anime dollars, but not real life dollars.
I mean, I guess. Kind of moving from animation into the rest of it. There's not really a lot to talk about in terms of characters. They're simple but effective. You have, your main character, Sweet JP, who's just this humanoid with his pompadour, and he's a good racer. He do the race good. You got his mechanic friend who is the race fixer. He looks kind of like a goblin.
Yeah, he's like a business suit goblin guy.
He's like a business goblin.
He's a mechanic. Yeah, he's a business goblin, but he's a mechanic. And I thought that was interesting because, normally you picture a mechanic like, I don't know, in oily shirts and overalls or whatever, jeans and stuff like that. But he works it in the suit and he fixes up the car.
Yeah, I think his character's probably one of the more interesting ones because it's one of the more complicated ones.
Yeah, and you don't...
Where he's torn between his desire to fix the races and his obligation to the mob that fixes these races.
Yeah.
And at the same... And, like, I'm thinking that's what's going to happen for Megalobox. I'm thinking that the guy shows up and he's like, all right, we're going to fix the match.
Yeah.
And then Joe's going to be like, no, I'm in this shit for the real.
I mean, yeah, Joe obviously is in it for the real, but yeah,
right, he's gonna try to beat Big Boss Yuri with his techno arms.
Yeah, and then the coach is gonna like face the same dilemma as this guy, where it's like, do I side with my boy or do I, fulfill our debt?
Yeah, it's pretty great. The other characters. Most of the other racers don't really super matter, but they do give a glimpse into the implied setting of the world. There's like the psychic twins, there's the big metal pompadour guy.
There's the champion, I guess.
Yeah, there's also the two characters that are actually returning characters from the OVA that this is based on. Which I haven't watched, so I can't say anything about it. I have no clue. I just know it's a sequel to an OVA. And yeah, it's pretty great. We should talk about Crab Sonoshi, who I think... I have slightly mixed feelings about this, because on one hand... she feels less important as a character.
Yeah.
Because she's mostly there to build up JP's narrative.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, she also feels really important because of her own narrative.
So when she first came into the scene, I was just like, oh, she's freaking Cindy from Final Fantasy 15. She's a mech head. She loves fixing up cars, like she's influenced by her dad, who was also like an engineer. She has a passion for racing, and she's she wants to race. She wants to win Redline, and on her own merits. Like, she doesn't ever ask anyone else for help. But then sweet JP comes along, and he's super into her, and they kind of build up this little romance thing, and she, because her car basically gets trashed in the final race, she hops into JP's in his car, and then she's like, win me the race. And yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it is... I think it is a little bit more than that, because it's revealed that she is the reason that he started racing for real.
I like that part, yeah.
And also, if she wasn't there, it would have been impossible for them to win the race in the first place.
Yeah.
I don't like that her narrative plays second fiddle to his.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the way that it comes together, I don't hate. Well, and given the nature of the movie itself, I feel like it's fitting. But it's not amazing.
The part, I guess, like, I do like the fact that the victory was hinged on her involvement, but at the same time, her involvement, like the fact that it did involve her, like, being gutsier with what they were doing was awesome. But then after that, it was like her using her magic necklace and unlimitless energy source thing to pop into the car, and then that was like, that also like helped push them forward. And then the final push was from the friend, which I loved. Like that accidental, like, sabotage of the car actually helped them. But like the fact that her major involvement in the race was to give him her magic necklace. Like, that didn't feel as good as if it was due to her technique or her experience with racing. It was basically like a magic, like, here you go. Kind of like a Deus Ex type of thing is what it reminded me of. So I didn't really like that part.
Yeah, I think I would tend to agree. I do think that it's complicated somewhat by the fact that it's trying very hard to evoke a certain era of anime.
Yeah.
And obviously, that era of animation is not beyond reproach.
Yeah.
It is notorious for being not amazing towards women.
Yeah, like her introduction, I guess, was just like JP when he's describing her, he's like, yeah, you're the cherry boy hunter, you know, like
cherry boy hunter.
And
but then she's not.
Yeah,
she's just like, I don't fucking know.
Yeah, she's like, that's not my name. And then she's also like, oh God, they showed my butt on TV. and she's also the type of person who she says that she's married to racing, right? She doesn't think about romance or anything like that. She's married to her work, basically, that type of person. Which is why I thought, like, yeah, she's a lot like Cindy from FF15. And then in the end, it's just like, oh, I love you, JP. And then they smooch at the end of the movie. And that's the end of the movie. Like, that is the actual end of the movie where it pops up with the title saying love. And then it's over. And it makes you think, like, was I watching a romance movie this whole time? I thought I was watching a race movie.
Yeah. I will say okay. For all of its faults, the last sequence is so mind-bogglingly, heart-racingly amazing. Like, wow. I'm conflicted about whether I should spoil exactly what happens or not, but basically they run out of car.
Yes. Well, I mean, I basically already spoiled it, so you can spoil it more.
There is not enough car for them to get past the finish line.
Yeah.
So their bodies just go whoa over it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to spoil exactly how they win, but woo! It is awesome. This is a movie with animation that you can viscerally feel with your body.
Yes.
And that is not something that I can say for most things.
True.
That is not something I can say for 99% of animation.
Yes. I
think it serves as a pure example of animation for the sake of animation, right? Mm-hmm. It has, and obviously the whole movie is an allegory for the digital era of animation versus the traditional era of hand animation, because literally they have hyperdrives and grav engines, but they're still racing these pseudo fuel car, like these land cars.
Right. And I guess that's another thing to touch on that is similar to Megalobox that I forgot to mention, is that the main character's, I guess, like, style of racing is a lot more old-fashioned / traditional.
Right, he just has a car.
Era. Yeah, he just has a car. Like, you can see from the very first race, his car is tiny. Like, it's a Trans Am, and it's souped up, and it's gold and beautiful, but it's tiny compared to all these giant, like, basically airships next to him. And he wins.
The champion basically turns himself into a motorcycle.
Yes, he does! He goes like freaking Final Fantasy transformation boss mode.
He really looks like a Final Fantasy boss.
Like,
it's
veins
actually
popping
amazing
out of his skin. It's just like, oh god, man, he blends into his car.
Yeah. But yeah, JP himself actually just drives a straight up car.
Yeah, he drives a car, and then it becomes a super souped up rocket car.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. I think that it's really valuable to us to get this hand animated film.
Yeah.
This lovingly crafted, in production for 7 years film.
Yeah.
That is essentially like this send off to hand animation as a part of the industry. And it's not cynical about it, really.
Yeah.
It's a labor of love. It says we see that the times are changing.
Yeah.
And that the things that we once held dear to us and were valuable, the difficulties of hand animation, because JP's car is hard as hell to drive because it's just a car and he's just putting bigger and bigger engines into it.
Yeah.
So, it's very difficult to control. And obviously, it's really hard to hand animate. It's prohibitively expensive. It's completely impractical for any kind of television animation. Like, cost-wise, it's prohibitive to even films these days.
Yeah, like
compared to digital.
Whenever you think of a film nowadays, if there's anything like mechanical that you have to repeat over and over again from scene to scene, you automatically think, oh, they're going to go CG with it, or they're going to do some kind of 3D model with it, right? Because it would just be ridiculous otherwise to animate every frame of this mechanical thing that doesn't change. But then this animation is like, hey, you know what? We're going to freaking draw 5 million images of this one car, and we're going to do it all sorts of different angles and warped perspectives. And it's gonna look good.
It's gonna look good as heck.
Yeah.
Or it shows us the kind of rewarding aspect of the old form, and at the same time saying, that the new stuff isn't terrible either, right? Like there's the scene where JP is like riding a hover bike, and he's like, "Hey, this is pretty cool."
Yeah. It's not a rejection of the new, but it's just like a celebration of the old,
Yeah, it's the most glorious send-off that you could ever have. And I think there is something to be said about the sort of movement away from traditional animation and the way that makes us lose a lot of the texture, right?
Yeah.
Of animation. And I think that's what people miss, right? That's why Megalobox is so popular right now.
Yeah.
It's because it looks and feels very textured.
Yeah.
Which is something that like a lot of anime these days look kind of clean, like too clean almost.
Yeah, too clean.
Which isn't a knock against, anime nowadays.
No.
But it definitely is. There's an amount of nostalgia that people have for the texture of painted backgrounds.
Sure.
With cells laid over them.
It feels a little closer, like it almost feels like as an audience member, you're closer to the animators because it's like, oh, I can see someone like laboring over this, like with a paintbrush or with a pencil or whatever. Because like when we grow up, we've all experienced drawing like by hand something, right? Even if it's not necessarily good or if it's a stick figure, we know what that's like versus not everyone knows what it's like to paint something digitally or to model something in 3D. And so I feel like as we progress into the modern age, there's more of a separation in modern animation than it was with traditional animation.
I think I would agree. I think that the movie does an amazing job of mixing the old and the new. Mm-hmm. And I think it evokes both of those eras really strongly.
Yeah, so well.
The simplicity of the plot does lend to what it's doing because it is kind of this homage to 90s anime. Mm-hmm. This tradition of hand animated films where the plot itself is pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. It's the intricacies of the plot themselves are almost inconsequential.
Yeah.
It doesn't, to greater or lesser effect, it doesn't dwell a lot in character development so much as it does in showing us what the characters are like over the course of the movie, which I think to some extent is a lot more valuable in movies like this.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
in movies, I think it fits the pace of a movie better for someone to not try to build character development into it, or if they do, because it's a lot harder to in a 2-hour or less span of time. That's why it's a lot easier because you have a lot more time in television series to build this. You can do it kind of gradually, and if you don't do it gradually, it feels kind of forced. So the fact that we instead get visions of what the characters are through their actions and the struggles that they go through, and ultimately the choices that they make, that ends up being more meaningful. And this is why when it comes to things like character development to me is not as important if it's not done well as just having good characters in the first place. I think the characters in this movie are fine.
Yeah.
I think they serve the purposes that they're there to serve.
Right.
I feel like the characters are good.
Yeah.
I feel like we get a good idea of what they're like through their actions. And yeah, it does a lot of showing and not telling.
Mm-hmm.
Which is pretty great. That's why it feels like there's a wider world outside of it.
Yes, absolutely.
Because we get a lot of these glimpses into things that are never explained or are revisited later, but not in a way where we get info dumped.
I think it does a good job of showing you just enough to keep you curious and interested, but then keep the show rolling. And I think if they did do stuff like give us the whole life story of Sweet JP and why he's called Sweet and where his family's from and all that stuff, like, and it would have like dragged down the pace so much. And while that would be interesting to know, it's not necessarily relevant to the story. And I actually think the most character development probably came from his friendo, the mechanic. Yeah. Like, you see his moral dilemma throughout the whole movie, and then in the end it gets resolved, and it's lovely.
Yeah, I like that they chose to go with very clear, direct, readable characters.
Yes.
Instead of trying to build characters over the course of the movie and develop them over the course of the movie in a way that wasn't relevant to the scope of the movie itself. I feel like the glimpses that we get of JP and what's his face? What is the mechanic's name?
I've just been calling him Friendo because I forget his... Oh, Frisbee! Oh my god, I can't believe I forgot. Frisbee!
It's been a couple months since I've seen it, so... Yeah, the fact that the glimpses of the past we get of JP and of Frisbee are all hyper relevant to the plot and to their characters. Mm-hmm. I think it's done really well. We only get what we need to get from that.
Yep.
Where we get, this is what we used to be like when we were racing. This is what happened after we got money. This is us seeing Crab Sonoshi. This is JP seeing Crab Sonoshi and being like, whoa, I want to race for the real. I want to be the genuine article. No, wait, that's Megalobox. It does share a lot of similarities with Megalobox. If you like Megalobox, watch Redline. If you like Redline, watch Megalobox.
Yeah.
They also both have really great music.
Yes, the music's so good.
I do think I like Megalobox's music a little bit better.
Yeah.
But that's my personal preference.
Same.
I think they both have really great tracks to them that really elevate the mood of the movie. Redline is a movie that is fast. It's, I mean, I don't want to say it's dirty, but it has a certain grit to it. Yes. That I think would probably be more cleanly defined as texture. It has a lot of texture and character to it. It's really fucking cool.
Oh, yeah.
And it is an animation that makes you feel the animation with your body. It is not just
your eyeballs.
Right. It is not just a visual experience. It is something that resonates within your core. Yeah. And ripples out towards your extremities.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, I watched the last scene of the movie and I was actually legitimately, physically, literally on the edge of my seat.
I was bouncing. like during the whole intro, I was bouncing. And then at the end, I was like,
it's actually so hype.
Yeah, I was leaning forward in my seat, just like, oh my God, it's a bit.
You know that he's going to win in the end because it's such a straightforward plot. But the way he gets there is so amazing. Yeah. And you never for a second feel like it's not unearned. And it is, to a large extent, it feels like another one of those movies or pieces of media where it doesn't matter that we know what the plot will be. We know exactly what the plot will be from the very start of the movie. And yet it's still so compelling to us because it is written in a way that is relatable and compelling and fun to watch. Like, overall, that's my takeaway from this movie, is that it's a movie that is fun to watch with your eyeballs, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I think that a lot of series can kind of get lost, and a lot of movies can get lost doing this. At the end of the day, it's animation. It's a piece of entertainment.
Yes.
And there was a lot of grueling hard work and development time put into it.
Yeah.
And the end result is it shows, because they know and they have such a clear vision of what they wanted to go for.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to go for a series that is, or not a series. I keep saying series. They wanted to go for a movie that is so fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's about the animation. It's about having a visual experience and having a visceral bodily experience watching entertainment. And that's something that I feel like nowadays miss a lot. A lot of newer shows are very clean. They're well animated, but man, I would be hard pressed to find anything that is as heart pumpingly, head poundingly, amazingly visceral as Redline.
Mm-hmm.
Redline feels like you're going to a musical concert, but it's an anime.
Yeah.
It feels like a steady drum beat that gets wilder and wilder.
I feel like by the end of it, you feel like you're in the mosh pit.
You actually feel like you're in the audience. You're like, yeah, go, do the racing good.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could do it, JP. I believe in you.
The whole end race, I don't know, like just like the way that they treated the characters and how crazy everything got, just reminded me of like if you were to watch like a high octane, super well rendered anime version of Wacky Races.
I mean, you're right. You're correct. You're absolutely correct.
Like super, like Wacky Races in a quality you would never have seen before.
In a higher quality than you've ever seen before.
That you would
More
never
quality
imagine.
than Wacky Races deserves.
That
Probably.
might belittle it in a sense, but like that's meant to be in like the highest respect possible.
It's true. It's true. I mean, going back to the movie thing, as a movie, I would prefer that movies don't try to have huge character arcs if they're not going to be able to do it well.
Yeah.
I feel like what Redline does is perfectly acceptable.
Yeah.
Especially for what it is, because it's just a spectacle. It is a 2-hour-long spectacle.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like normally when I watch a movie, I like to see like the story play out like something story heavy or character development heavy, like that kind of thing. But this is a perfect example of a movie that doesn't need all of that. Like it tells its story the way that it wants to in its own style, and it keeps you invested in its own way, and it owns it perfectly. Whereas lesser quality movies or animations or whatever, they're going to try and shoehorn the things that feel like, oh, I need this because that's what the formula tells me, right? Like it tells me that I need a main character that feels relatable, that has a developmental character arc that you feel like you need to root for them. It needs a love interest. You know, there is a love interest in this one, but it doesn't feel as shoehorned in. It does feel kind of forced in some ways, but like it doesn't feel as forced as it would be to follow a formula. And it tells you all the information that you need to know to enjoy this little window glimpse into this world, and then you're popped back out of it, and then you're left wanting to know more.
It's just a nice 2-hour package.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think this is a movie that is particularly impressive because, you know, I like anime, but just sort of inherently because of my educational background and my focus of topic, I guess, for being like a literature major, right? A lot of my focus does go towards character and plot and dialogue.
Yeah.
But this is a movie that I didn't think about any of that with. I was just like, the car go fast.
Yeah, you're just along for the ride, and like generally when I watch these types of movies, right, where they don't focus on story or plot or characters or whatever, I'm like, this feels kind of shallow. Like, it isn't like, oh, it's just like a, like a action comedy movie. I'm gonna sit here and not think about stuff for 2 hours, and I'm gonna pop back out and forget about it, right? But this is like, I'm going to remember this freaking movie. It's freaking amazing.
I think this is a flawless example of what makes an animated movie unique. It is a flawless example of an action movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't go where it doesn't need to go. It knows exactly the scope it's working within, and it operates within that. Yeah. And that's why it feels so good.
Yeah.
It's because it doesn't overstay its welcome. It knows when to pull its punches, and it knows when to just go for it and go full throttle.
Mm-hmm. Wow, car references.
Wow, car references are so good at words. Yeah, and the fact that it can make you feel that way in the last, like, 10 seconds of the movie, the last 30 seconds of the movie, everything feels like it builds up towards that to an almost deafening degree.
Yes.
It is a maddening crescendo of coolness.
I feel like you don't even need to be a fan of racing or cars or anything to enjoy this movie.
I don't give a shit about cars.
Yeah, exactly.
But I love this movie.
Yeah. Because it doesn't get into that, I mean,
it's like, I don't care about boxing, but I like Megalobox.
Yeah.
Although I will say, I think because of the benefit of time and of hand animation, like traditional hand animation, that Redline, I feel like, does a better job than Megalobox, if for no other reason than the action sequences, which are integral to the movie itself, are better animated. I think that if there was one criticism to level up Megalobox, I don't like the fight choreography because it feels impactful and meaningful, but the actual fights themselves aren't that impressive.
Okay.
Is probably what I would say about that. Yeah, I love this movie. I think this is like a 10 out of 10 movie.
Yeah.
For
I
what
would
it
give
does.
It full rating if we rated anything.
5 stars. I'm a verified Amazon customer. Just like, it saved my life from boredom.
That's what you would title your review. It saves my life
saved
from
my
boredom.
life from boredom forever.
Forever. Good. That's a really good title.
Yeah. No, it really does feel like hype as hell.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen the last fight in Gurren Lagann, it has as much impact as that, even though people aren't punching each other. It arguably has more impact than that, although Gurren Lagann, if we're being fair, has the benefit of an entire 26 or so episodes to build that.
You have the emotional investment by that point.
But the amount of hype that Redline can build within 2 hours is honestly astonishing.
Yes.
It legit feels like the most important thing. I mean, this is something I said about the end of The Tale of Princess Kaguya. It feels like the most important thing you're watching at the time. It is overpoweringly amazing at what it does as an animated movie.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. That's all I gotta say about Redline anyway. You got any parting thoughts?
I think if you've got, I think it's even shorter than 2 hours. It's like an hour and 30 minutes plus credits, something like that.
I actually think you're right. I think it is much shorter than 2 hours. I think it might actually be like an hour 30 or something.
Yeah. It's somewhere around there. And if like people generally they're 2 hour movie, but like this is like a little over an hour. If you got time for that, please just go check it out. Like check out like the first I want to say like 5 to 10 minutes, and then you'll know what you're getting into in terms of like how the style feels. And then if you feel like you can get into it, get through the first race. And if you feel like it's your jam, then please finish the movie. You'll probably just end up finishing the movie regardless. Just check it out. and you'll be freaking impressed. And then you'll probably also forget that it's hand animated until you go back and listen to this podcast or look up stuff about it.
So yes, the movie itself is 1 hour and 42 minutes long, and it is blisteringly. It goes by blisteringly fast.
So fast.
Watch the first scene of the movie, and you are instantly drawn into it. You will not turn away. Yeah. Like,
I would be impressed if you were just like, this doesn't feel like it'll be anything, and you walk away from it in the beginning. Which I feel like now people will probably try and do that. But you know what? That's their loss, because it's a great movie.
Yeah, it's honestly something special. That was Redline.
Yeah.
We honestly didn't talk about it for as long as we probably talked about the other stuff, but I feel like that is fine with how the movie was. We're not wasting time. We're just getting into it. It's short, it's fast, it's sweet.
If we were clever enough, we would make this podcast episode exactly the amount of time it takes for you to watch the movie, but we're not that great.
We're not that great, but actually the problem is that we would have to pad the episode.
We would have to pad it, yeah, and you don't want that. We need to be like Redline and just give you the information that you need. Well, I do have a story to tell before we end, because I forgot to talk about it.
Tell me your story and also what you're up to this week.
Yeah. Okay, so I forgot to say this while I was talking about Animazement, but I got to first of all, I got to attend one of the panels by the director of freaking Cowboy Bebop and Space Dandy and all that freaking great stuff. He's freaking fantastic, and it was really, really cool listening to him talk about his work and about how it was basically kind of like a Q&A panel. And one of the questions I remember really vividly was like someone talking about like, oh, what's your favorite like funny scene from all the stuff that you worked on? And he was basically like, I mean, all the stuff that I worked on has become like you work so hard to make it that by the time that you're done with the episode, nothing is funny anymore.
Yeah, that's fair.
I freaking love it. So this is to you, Watanabe Shinichiro. You're a fantastic man.
Thanks, Watanabe.
Just to listen to talk about. And another thing was I attended a panel by Rachel and June. Where June was talking about the history of Japanese cooking. And then at the end, he was basically having a giveaway for a nakiri knife. And he made Shokugeki references. It was great.
Nice.
And, so he was giving one of these away. And so the way that he was doing this was to have a rock, paper, and scissors challenge to the whole panel room, right? And so the audience would have to basically tie or beat whatever he threw out. And so I made it to the final round from a whole room of people. Yeah, the room was full. Like we were standing in the back. And so I got up on stage with this other much taller, very nervous dude named Nathaniel. Shout outs to you, dude. I was also shaking and nervous. And while we were up on stage, June added another condition to the jankenpon, which I didn't know about this, is the person who wins the jankenpon has to point in a direction, and then the person who lost has to turn their head in, I guess, like the opposite direction or a different direction than where the person is pointing. But despite them showing this twice as like a demonstration, my stupid self still didn't understand the rules.
Oh no.
And so when the guy pointed, my head like automatically just like went in the same direction that he pointed, and I of course lost.
Oh, that's so sad. You never knew about the pointing?
Huh? No, I didn't know, which I guess like it probably I should have seen it already in like some anime or something, but like I didn't know.
Renu, I'm gonna call you out right now.
Yeah, what's up?
This was literally in an episode of Hinamatsuri that we watched together.
Oh, what episode?
Do you know the one where they meet Anzu for the first time?
Yeah.
And they play rock, paper, scissors?
Oh, I remember. Yeah, but I didn't understand what they were doing.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
deserved to lose that knife.
You really did, but I'm so sad that you did.
Yeah, I was really, I was fine. I didn't expect to make it that far anyway.
It would have been perfect if you had gotten that knife and then you brought it over and we used it to do the food episode.
Well, I guess we'll just have to get one ourselves.
We'll just have to get our own knives.
Yeah, it won't be rewarded to us by a fabulous chef who does fabulous things on YouTube, but
it's tragic.
We'll have earned it in our own way via monies.
Is this the same June's Kitchen that did the one where he just repairs a knife?
Yes, and he freaking showed
I
parts
love that
of
video.
that. Yes, he showed parts of that video during his panel too, to talk when he was talking about knives, and I was like, yes, this is a very good video.
Hang on the topic of Japanese men and knives, I've told you about the guy that makes knives out of food, right?
Yes, you have very emphatically told me about this man.
I have to tell everyone I know about it all the time and make sure that they know about it. They share some similarities. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
Good. They feel very therapeutic to watch.
There's nothing more therapeutic.
And it's made me want to get a knife sharpener for myself because I don't own one. And I'm one of those like ghetto Asians who uses a cleaver for everything.
Oh. I thought you were going to say like, I'm one of those people that uses those like dollar store knives for everything.
I mean, I don't think it's a dollar store knife. Like, I don't think it's quite that bad, but it needs to be sharpened, and I haven't done that.
My grandma has a bunch of knives. They're not like nice knives.
Yeah.
Except for maybe the cleaver. I don't know.
Cleaver!
I don't know where the cleaver comes from, but I know it's effective.
I get it from my mom, who does the same thing. She has a cleaver and she has a fruit knife. Like, that's it. And I am the same way now.
Do you want to know what about my grandparents, though, rather?
Uh-huh.
My grandfather would sharpen knives by hand, but thinking back on it, I can't tell if he had a whetstone or if he was just using a cement block. Like, that is the level at which my Asian ass grandparents are at.
That would be so amazing. You need to learn the secret art of sharpening with a cinder block or a cement block or any kind of just non-whetstone block.
I have learned so much random shit from my grandfather. I learned how to sharpen a pencil with a knife.
Sure.
Which is what they had to do back when they didn't have pencil sharpeners.
Yeah, of course.
And if I ever have a pencil made of wood again, which I probably won't, but if I do and a knife, I'll know what to do.
Yeah, like my dad does the exact same things with his wooden pencils. He basically only uses wooden pencils because mechanical pencils don't write so well on his carpentry projects or whatever.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah, and so he'll use a wooden one, and you could tell that it's all hand sharpened with a knifeu.
I'd like some nice knives someday, but I think if I do get some, it will be after I move out.
I think it will be after you get the most essential one, which is the cleaver.
Yeah, exactly. Except for me, the essential one is not the cleaver, because I don't come from a tradition of cooking Asian food, right?
The Asian food requires a cleaver.
That's the problem, right? Like I all my cooking comes from like being self-taught, and so it just requires the normal shaped knife.
You normie.
I bet I could get away with using a cleaver. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't actually know if the cleaver that we have is actually a cleaver, or if it's a knife that the tip broke and we ground off.
Oh my god!
It's actually entirely possible. I think it's a cleaver. I think the length of it and the consistency of the end of it proves that it's a cleaver. I think.
I think that's what a lot of like these cleaver traditions came from, is the fact that, I can get away with just using a cleaver for this. And that's why it ends up being such a mainstay. And then that's why the only other knife that my mom and I own is a fruit knife, because peeling stuff with, a cleaver is a little less practical.
Yeah. You know what? I bet I could get away with just living with a wood-handled cleaver for a while.
Yeah.
That's my first That's going to be my first cooking purpose,
freaking, my mom just goes straight on with a full metal cleaver. The whole handle,
metal
everything
cleaver?
is just
really?
metal. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Like, I'm pretty sure we've had that thing for decades. Like, I know, since I can't remember her using a different one since I was born.
Yeah, I'd actually love to get one of those that's just like one solid piece.
Yeah. Get yourself a cleaver that could do it all, man.
Get yourself a cleaver. It's the jack of all trades of Asian cooking.
It's terrible. Don't listen to me for cooking advice.
Listen to me for cooking advice. All you need is a cleaver, a pan, and chopsticks. And a couple bowls, I guess. Literally, I replace most utensils I do not have with chopsticks. Before we had actual whisks, I just used chopsticks.
I don't have a whisk. I only use chopsticks.
Yeah. The whisk is more useful for things like making bechamel sauces and sifting flour. But yeah, I guess that's enough of cooking. Where can we find you? What are you up to this week?
I will be plotting our food cast, but in the meantime, I got some commissions from Animazement, so I will be working on those, maybe on or off stream. I don't know. I got a fresh batch of acrylic charms in, so I'll be assembling those too. I got a Hisoka one, or rather, I designed a Hisoka one and it came in, and I'm really excited.
Ooh. Exciting.
And that's it. You can find me on Twitter and on Twitch and on Tumblr, all at SwanDrawn. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm Swan.drawn, because someone took SwanDrawn. I don't think they even post that much. I'm just saying I could use it if they weren't using it already.
Tragic.
Yeah, that's it. What about you, Soup?
Well, I am going to be drowning in schoolwork.
Mm-hmm.
There is no two ways about it. My finals are next Monday, and all my projects are due next Tuesday. So I'm basically going to become a hermit, and I'm not going to be a real person. And it's going to be bad. It's going to be... my sleep schedule is going to be all over the place. It's going to be probably the worst. Aside from that, I'm not lying when I'm saying when finals week rolls around, I'm just not a real person anymore. It is difficult to contact me. It is difficult to discern if I am even still alive.
Yeah.
The answer is only a little.
Barely is the answer.
I'm still alive, but I'm barely breathing. You can find me on all the places on the internet at Literal Soup.
Mm-hmm.
I always pronounce the P really hard so that when I go back and edit the podcast, it hurts me.
It hurts you?
And I try to edit out the little puff at the end.
Yeah.
But really, I could just avoid this if I learned, like, any mote of mic discipline ever.
Well, I think it helps, though, because people will know that you're not at Literal Sue, you're at Literal Soup.
People will imply the P. People will imply the P. This is what I've learned. The little puff that exudes out in the P sound and the T sound, if you edit those out, people can't tell the difference. They're just like, wow, this sounds really good.
Oh.
Turns out people have bad ears. I got bad ears. Holy shit, my ears are bad.
I mean, like I feel like your brain organ subs a lot of that stuff in. So
It does. This is like a noted thing where when you get older, you will start to phase out the difference between letters like P and T.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes very difficult for you to tell. Or Pell.
Aww. That's sad. That made me sad.
Listen, that's just how it be. And considering that we live in a culture that is very dependent on things like headphones and earbuds, it's happening faster than ever.
Oh,
I
man.
wish I had better ears.
The future is bright.
The future is bright because we get to have techno ears, right? I want cyber magic ears.
I think that you could very easily become a very adorable anime boy if you get them cyber.
If I got cyber ears, I would want them
Yeah.
in the style of the like adorable robots from anime that have the weird headphone pad with the antenna coming out the back. Do you know what I mean?
No, I don't know what you mean.
What? How do you? I feel like I've talked about this before.
No.
like Chachamaru from what's his bucket? What was it? Negima, like that.
Oh, so like Chobit's ears.
Okay, yeah, I guess like Chobit's ears. I mean, okay, but like Chobit's ears are like furry ears. I want them to explicitly be robot ears.
They're not furry ears. The whole point of Chobits is that they're android ears. Have you not read / watched Chobits?
Listen, I know that they're android ears, but they're meant to evoke animal ears.
Cheese ears are meant to evoke animal ears because hers look like little kitty ears, but on the sides of her head. But if you look at other Chobits other androids, Persicoms, sorry, I kept trying to think of the word. Persicoms in the world, they have different shaped ears. Some of them look like this girl.
I guess that's fair.
Yeah.
But yeah,
if some Persicom ears.
If I were to get cyber ears, I would want them to look like that.
Giant pointy things that will slap someone if they get too close.
Giant pointy obnoxious things, but it would be really great because I could just like plug it into my music device. Or probably at that point that we have magic ears made of technology, we can probably just use wireless technology to not have to deal with wires.
Yeah. You would have a whole music library stored in a hard drive you could plug into your head.
Heck, they could even be just downloaded into the ears themselves.
Yeah.
Oh my god, if I could live my life with background music,
that
would be awesome.
Yeah, that's the next generation. Like, we've moved on from cat ear headphones.
It's true. It's true. Well, I
don't know. Oh, sorry. I was going to say, like, I saw an old dude wearing them when I went to House of Pies this past weekend, which is like a diner / pie place and has lots of different kinds of pies. Mm-hmm. And he came in with this old lady, like she's grandma age, and she had completely, like, was wearing from head to toe Nightmare Before Christmas wear, like the whole dress and high socks and everything. And then she had kitty ears on her head.
Wow.
So they matched.
Wow. That's
I was like, man, that's an old couple that they know what they love and they work it.
That's beautiful. That's true love right there, folks.
That's true love.
That's true love. That's what it looks like.
Anyway, I interrupted you.
You can find our podcast on Twitter at AbsoluteCast.
Yeah.
We will post updates there if I am ever late with an episode or struggling. Or sometimes even if you just want to get the post-episode commentary, I'll sometimes have a snarky quip or two about it. And
you don't need a Twitter to look at it.
You don't need Twitter to look at it. You just need to find the page. You can also find our videos on YouTube, where Renu puts a loving amount of work into. They look awesome. They look amazing. They're beautiful. No. Our podcast, so cover art is beautiful.
No.
It's just so good.
No.
Yes. Accept it. Exciting things coming down the line. We're going to be probably doing wrap-ups soon. Wrap-ups and startups for the coming summer season and the end of spring. I'm hyped because I think some of the things coming in summer look pretty interesting.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I will have to do a more formal look at that, but that's neither here nor there, of course, because we still have a couple episodes left in the spring season and all of its intricacies and interesting things that it decides it wants to tell us about. Like Dragon Plane 4.
I know that's your favorite.
It's okay, I guess.
I know we'll finish it and you'll love every second of it.
It's okay, I guess.
I mean,
I'm also doing link dumps now for everything that we talked about in the episode. So if there's something that we mentioned kind of offhand, I will link to it because, you know, I love making work for myself.
I will leech off of that work and put it in our videos too.
Yeah, I'm gonna put them in the description of the podcast, so you should be able to use that to follow along. And I think that'll make this a lot clearer for people that listen that don't know what anime is.
That don't know what anime is.
I mean that in the more general sense. There are definitely people I know that listen to this that sometimes get a little bit lost because we talk about things that make no sense to normal people.
We are a semi niche.
We are a somewhat
podcast.
specialist podcast.
But I understand that. I think that would also be helpful because sometimes we do mention anime that even I haven't seen or you haven't seen, you know, stuff like that. So
also, I just know a lot of weird, obscure things. So
you do.
If I bring something up, I will
things.
try to put it in the dump.
Yeah. Have fun.
So look forward to that. Or I guess if you're listening to this, you will see it.
Whoa.
So maybe I should have prefaced the episode with it. Oh well.
You know what? They'll see it and then they'll have the explanation.
Hindsight is 20/20.
Yeah.
Or, you know, if we're being mindful of the microphone, 2020.
Jesus. I almost thought you were gonna make another car pun.
No. This was just that wasn't even a bit. That was just straight up how it goes.
Okay, let's just end it. I can't.
Okay.
I can't.
Akechiguro, eat your fucking heart out. We should have done the rambling before the or after the ending rather. We should have done the rambling after the ending.